the assignment. There it is. That's the one.
Right.
Oh, hello, Councilmember O'Kane.
Somebody want me to unmute?
Yes, thank you. We were just waiting on your mic. There you are.
Yep.
Good evening to you.
Angela, I mean, Anastasia, or Stacia, do you hear me okay?
Yes, just fine. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so Madam Clerk, you are keying up the recording, right? Kenmore City Council is now in session. Will the clerk please call the roll?
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
I can't hear Anastasia.
I
Anastasia.
can't either. Nope. Madam Clerk, shall I call the roll?
Yes, please.
We can
Oh,
hear
we
you
hear
now.
you now.
There we go.
Very good. My apologies. Councilmember Kugler.
Here.
Councilmember Shrubnik.
Yes, here.
Councilmember O'Kane.
Here.
Councilmember Marshall.
Present.
Councilmember Herbig.
Here.
Councilmember File.
Here.
Mayor Baker.
Here.
All present.
Pursuant to RCW 42.30.1101 subsection I, the City Council will now enter a closed executive session to discuss pending and potential litigation. The executive session is expected to last 40 minutes and no final action is expected. So I will,
Mayor Baker.
yes,
I believe there was the correction. The executive session is actually expected to last approximately 1 hour.
okay. So the executive way here on my agenda it says 40 minutes. So anyway, expected to last 1 hour and no final action is expected. So I'll see you on the other side.
If you're still with us, the council has now recessed into an executive session. This is a closed session. This is to discuss pending or potential litigation. They should return within the hour. And if they choose to extend, they will make a public announcement stating that. Thank you.
Hey there.
Hey Brian, thank you for helping me troubleshoot. Yeah, my video just completely cut out, or rather my audio. So, can you hear me okay now, or is it muffled?
I can hear you okay. I just have to play around with my speakers right now since I think this might be the first time I've used it on this computer, so I have to change the volume, but it sounds fine.
Okay, let me try something else, and just letting you know, everything here is being recorded, so um, hopefully it won't be very disruptive. Hold on. What about now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
So which do you prefer?
I didn't know the difference.
You didn't notice the difference. Okay. Okay, so it must have been just a strange glitch with the surface. Thank you so much for helping me troubleshoot, Brian. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a good one.
Okay, goodbye. Welcome back, Mayor.
We are on our way.
Wonderful. You still have 5 minutes.
Hi, Anastasia.
Hi, Dre. Oh, wonderful. I see you and I hear you. Do you see and hear me?
I do.
Okay, great. I'm glad that worked. You can go ahead and turn your video off and fade into the background until the mayor cues you in when it's your time.
Perfect. Thank you.
See you soon. Goodbye. Mayor Baker, can you hear me? I see your lips moving. I'm assuming yes.
Can we keep extraneous people off of the screen?
We can.
Because it reduces my ability to see the council members.
Got you.
When they've got questions. So anyway, thank you.
I got you.
Okay, so we're going to come out of the executive session now. The recording is running.
Correct.
And there was no action to be taken from executive session. And the regular meeting is now called to order. And we have the roll call twice, and nobody has left us, so all council members are present. And if you would please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. If there's no objections, the agenda will stand approved as written. Next item is a presentation and consideration of the school district bond measure proposal. And this is a presentation of North Shore School District School Levy and bond measures, 3 propositions in all, for the February 28th, 2022 special election, presented by Dree Ralph, Executive Director of Capital Projects and Operations. Dree, if you please, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today. I'm going to share my screen and walk through a quick presentation about these bond measures. Go. First, I just have to acknowledge that we had a lot of participation in creating these measures. In fact, I believe we had someone on the screen who helped create this member, with Karina Fiel as one of our people who participated in our bond planning task force. She's representative of 70 other volunteers that participated throughout the district on the bond planning task force. We had a little bit larger number on the technology task force. The recommendations by those groups were taken to our school board, which have put together this resolution that's in front of you tonight. So thank you again so much for having us here. As you are likely familiar, the Northshore School District has 23,400 students, 3,000 staff members, and we feel it imperative to create a welcoming environment for everyone.
Wow, the number of students you have is exactly the number of people that live in Kenmore.
Is it really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Pretty darn close, yes.
Love that. We have 35 schools, and in those schools, we have roughly 2,600 volunteers who help create a great space for our students to learn. We value our community partnerships, which are really strong, including one with your council. And we have hundreds of staff folks who flexed and took alternative additional roles as staff people this year during the pandemic. One of the most notable groups who did that were our bus drivers. We were able to keep them employed during the whole pandemic that continues today. Part of what they were able to do is deliver 288,720 free meals to people in our district. We ensured not only that they had food to eat, but that they had a way to get information through technology. We had every student had a one-on-one device ready to go. And for those who don't have internet connectivity, we had internet hotspots that we were able to provide to over 1,900 students. As a result of all of these and the great community that we operate in, we have not seen the same dramatic decrease in enrollment that other districts in the Puget Sound have faced, which is part of what leads us here today. As you all know, Washington State still does not fully fund K-12 education. We really rely on voter-approved funding measures to cover imperative services. For instance, our special education program and other critical school staff positions are not fully funded by the state. What we're bringing tonight are not new taxes, but they're expiring levies and a 20-year bond to continue our important work with the facilities. All of the revenue that we will gain through these measures will stay here in our local community to support our students. So these are the 3 measures. We have an education programs and operations levy renewal that we call EP&O, and we have a technology renewal and a capital projects bond. So this is the one that everyone likes to see. This is the heart of the matter. This is the current tax rate. You'll see that we're at $3.63 per $1,000 of assessed property value. Because our service area has grown a lot over the last year, our proposals would actually lead to a reduced tax rate. So it would go down to $3.28. So to quickly talk through these, we have the EP&O levy that we're requesting $265 million in funding over the next 4 years. This would help fund nurses, mental health support and staff, and elementary counselors and other classroom supports. It would also include that special education funding that I mentioned earlier. And then really important, I know to the citizens of Northshore, I've got the chance to, or of Kenmore, I've got the chance to talk to Kenmore L and Kenmore Middle, is this funding also supports our multi-language learners, as well as our accelerated learners. So this is where we get to provide kind of a broader curriculum to meet the needs of our students where they're at. And then this is also a big one for Kenmore. This bridges the gap for student activities such as band, orchestra, choir, theater, and athletics. And in a minute, I will talk to you about the new concert hall that's at Inglemoor High School. Along with the EP&O levy, we're looking to replace the technology levy, and this would be an $80 million fund over the next 4 years. So this slide talks about the classroom technology, and I think this is the one most people think of when they think of technology levies. So this will maintain our one-to-one support for every student from 2nd grade through high school with a device that they can take home with them, and then one-to-one for those younger grades in their classrooms. So it enables us to can maintain that level of service. But the next ones, I think, are ones that we don't always think about. So this allows us to increase our software for not only our students, but also staff applications. We are running a rather large district with payroll and all the things that you all deal with at City Hall are things that are technology and software that we have to maintain as well. And then, of course, any of you who are parents or grandparents of students probably found out that you had to become technology experts over the last year. So the technology levy allows us to fund support for training for teachers, families, and staff. And finally, one of the ones that I'm most excited about is over the past couple of years, they've really increased the ability to provide adaptive technologies for our students who most need help. Either help because they're behind or help because they're ahead. Adaptive technologies really allows teachers to personalize the instruction for the students who are in the classroom. All right, Karina, here comes the fun part. So this is, no, don't get me wrong, the other parts are fun too, but I just have a special spot in my heart for capital projects. So I think this year's capital bond looks at things a little differently than has been done in the past. We're requesting $425 million to take care of the infrastructure that we already have. In the 2018 bond, we worked on maintaining building systems and doing upgrades for instructional areas and athletic spaces. We did safety and security updates at every single school in the district. And then we built a few major growth projects, namely Ruby Bridges Elementary School, and then a 30 classroom flexible space that goes between Skyview and Canyon Creek. And then finally, last but not least, we're just about done with the Northshore Concert Hall at Inglemoor High School. Depending on when our seats can get here, they're currently caught at the port in Long Beach, but they are on their way to us. We really hope to open this by the end of January. And I really hope all of you who live in Kenmore will have a chance to at least drive by and look at it, if not stop in and see what a beautiful space it is. So I mentioned that we're taking a little bit different look at growth and facilities when it comes to this bond. Our committee was very committed to working on schools and facilities that we currently have. So with that, we looked at handling growth throughout the district instead of building one larger building. So we're looking to add classroom space and reduce the need for portables. So in this plan, this $425 million plan that I mentioned, it would reduce the number of portables by 70, and it would add 110 new classrooms. So for a total add of over 40 classrooms that will be spread throughout the district. And in a minute, I'll show you exactly where those will take place. Along with this growth and modernization part of the bond, we are looking to continue to take care of the infrastructure in our buildings and take care of replacing or updating elevators, fire protection, lighting, roofing, HVAC systems, flooring, all of those things to really keep our spaces safe and up to date. We'll also look at maintaining safe air, water in spaces, and upgrading our schools. One of the key parts of this is our outdoor learning areas. You see a picture on here. This is the playground at Ruby Bridges Elementary. One of the things that has happened over the last 4 years is the district has assumed the responsibility for funding our outdoor playgrounds, where before we had to rely on PTAs to provide this. As a result, we will be installing several new outdoor playgrounds across the district to make sure that all of our students at all of our schools have the same experience. So this is the big picture. And if you look at the ones that have the kind of raspberry colored dot in the middle, these will be those large growth projects that we're anticipating. So you see Inglemoor High School is on here. We are planning for a phase 1 replacement for Inglemoor High School. So we'll design the entire project, but build out phase 1. This is a $100 million project. We'll also be doing a similar phased replacement of Leota Middle School. We'll be adding some classroom space to Sorensen Early Childhood Center. And then we'll be doing roughly $30 million modernization and expansions of Wooden Elementary, of Hollywood Hills Elementary, of Kenmore Elementary, of Crystal Springs Elementary, and then of Fernwood. So this is the whole breakdown by site. So you see again, the raspberry ones are the ones that I've talked about. You see that every school will have some health and safety as well as technology infrastructure improvements. And then at various sites, you'll see some fields or inclusive learning places or outdoor learning. So Popkini will be looking at to re-field it this year as well. So again, if you look at all 3 of these measures combined, we're looking at roughly $3.28, depending on how assessed values and growth goes throughout the district. But this is what the current very conservative trajectory is. And we're going to continue to provide information to our folks in our district over the next month and a half. We'll be doing some district-wide meetings in January. The ballot should arrive in mid-January, and the voting deadline is February 8th. And that wraps up my presentation.
Thank you, Dree. Thank you very much. I noticed on your first technology picture, the students were using an Apple II computer. That goes back to my time. So I hope you will be able to upgrade some of your equipment. All right.
Absolutely.
So we are going to open a public comment period. And this is an opportunity to specifically address comment on resolution number 21-374, which expresses support for the following three propositions. One is the replacement for educational programs and operational levy. The other is general obligation bonds. And third is a technology level and levy and renewal of capital projects. So we are offering the public an opportunity to speak either for or against the resolution number 21-374 supporting these measures. We want to try and keep this as balanced as we can. The clerk, do you have anybody to speak for or against these resolutions?
Yes, Mayor Baker, I see one hand raised. Vicky Grayland. Vicky Grayland, you have permission to speak. Let me go ahead and share my timer. You'll have 3 minutes. Vicky, can you hear us? It looks like you might be unmuted, or muted rather.
How about now?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay, good. Well, as a high-tech worker, I would like to support the technology proposal. I think we need to bridge the digital divide that probably exists in our community and give opportunity to everyone who's interested in high tech. And I just think, you know, as an economic justice proposal, I am totally for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grayland. Anybody wanting to speak against the proposition to support? Hearing nobody else coming forward, we want to try this, keep this as balanced as possible. So is there any council member that wants to speak in favor or against? All right, so I will accept a motion to approve resolution number 21-374 in support of these three propositions for the ballot. Is there a motion?
So moved, Councilmember File.
And I will, and Deputy Mayor seconds. All right, motion and a second. Let's do this properly. The clerk, please take the roll. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Now the clerk could please take the roll.
Point of order.
Councilmember File.
Thank you. For the record, I do need to state that I have served on the Northshore Capital Bond Planning Task Force and the Northshore, the Citizens for Northshore Schools Bond and Levy Committee. And that being said, I ensured that I didn't participate in any final vote, knowing that we would potentially have the issue come before us tonight.
All right. Clerk, please take the roll.
Deputy Mayor Herbig,
Yes.
Councilmember Shrevenick,
Yes.
Councilmember File,
Yes.
Councilmember Marshall,
Yes.
Councilmember Kugler,
Yes.
Councilmember O'Kane,
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes.
The resolution passes unanimously.
Wonderful. Thank you all very much. Next item on the
Thank you
agenda.
so much.
You betcha. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a public comment. And we want to welcome you to our community members to the council's meeting. And in this forum, the council cannot engage in dialogue with the public. The primary role of the council is to listen. All comments must be addressed to the mayor and council, and please use the raise hand feature if you wish to speak. The clerk will acknowledge your request and call your name when it's your turn. Your time will start when we confirm we can hear you. And please state your name and city so that city of residence for the record, and keep your comments to the allotted time. Your time cannot be granted to another, and your clock will not be reset unless there are extenuating circumstances and the presiding officer has expressly allowed it. Screen sharing is not allowed, and you can submit materials to the council or clerk in advance. Please do not comment about pending development projects on which the council will make future decisions, as those are quasi-judicial in nature matters, and the council members must limit their communications about such matters. And the meeting is being recorded, and we thank you for taking your time to express your comments. Will the clerk please call the first person?
Thank you, Mayor Baker. We'd like to call the first group in this order: Stacy V, followed by John Culver, Andy Pearson, David Morton, John Peoples, and Peter Lance. Stacy V.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go
Yes.
ahead.
Thank you. Stacy Valenzuela, Kenmore. For almost 15 years, Kenmore residents have been filling odor complaints. It's extremely disappointing that after so many residents reported concerns and ill effects of the asphalt emissions, they are not a higher concern. It is disappointing that a health evaluation study has not been performed, and the testing and HEPA air purifiers have not been offered. Hopefully, with Inslee's Climate Commitment Act that moved forward today to limit greenhouse gases and concern for industry emissions will have some effect. And some more residents from Kenmore in the emissions path may be able to breathe. The emissions from the asphalt plant and wood burning fireplaces, stoves, and fire pits contribute to most contaminant in our air. Currently, there are 2 rebate programs to encourage replacement of wood burning fireplaces and stoves. I support David Morton, who has educated many of us with the need of emission testing, eliminating use of petroleum oil binders, and improving the clean air processes. All of these should be actively supported. We can't stop the wildfire smoke, but these steps we can do to improve air quality. We need the city to actively support lowering greenhouse gases, stop from cementing any of our natural habitat areas, and use other materials, save our tree canopy, and take the steps towards improving our environment. We need the city to require testing and cleanup of all soil and water in MODCA sites in Kenmore before and during construction. We also need an ordinance to stop the reuse of previously used cement, a load sitting right now at Cal Portland on 175th. This could contain rebar, gas from cars, arsenic, 200 times the normal. Who knows? It should be tested. All these toxins, when broken down into particulate matter, are in our residents' lungs from the air they breathe. They kill our birds, contaminate the land and our water. This makes up part of that sediment dredged from the lake and the slough. Many of our residents and organizations live daily taking steps for our environment. Many have come forward with suggestions because they care. If the city showed that kind of care in their actions to support climate change, others might be encouraged to follow instead of using this as an excuse. We also need the ballot initiatives in Kenmore. As most of the cities near us, we need to support our residents and organizations concerned. We, the people, ask that you support this to move forward. Thank you very much and happy holidays.
Thank you, Ms. Valenzuela. John Culver?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. Good evening, council. It's John Culver, Kenmore resident. I've got the holiday spirit tonight. I want to thank the council for taking up the issue of initiatives and referendum powers. I want to thank the city staff for their work in doing research and due diligence on this important issue. I want to thank the community who has turned up big in support of enacting these powers here in the city of Kenmore. I'm glad to see those efforts have now vetted and confirmed what we've discussed previously, that dozens of other cities have these powers, that there are boundaries on both the process and the scope of potential issues to be put forward through initiatives, that the costs are indeed free during an already running local election, and that we have two well-prescribed processes for acquiring these powers, through petition or through action from council. Tonight, I join others in asking Kenmore City Council to take action and vote to enact these powers through a resolution. Over the previous months, we've had time to gather the facts, to vet the process, to understand the legal mechanics at work, and to have a robust discussion with the community, city legislatures, and city staff. And the choice could not be more clear. Supporting initiatives through council sends a clear message that Kenmore lives its values and embraces a vigorous democratic process. It is to reciprocate the trust that the community puts in its elected representatives through its electoral vote by sending the elevator back down and allowing a wider conversation into the process. At a time when, democracy has faced some trials and stumbling blocks, it is a significant and tangible step towards steadier footing. And more importantly, it's an important step in building a more just, equitable, involved, and inclusive city. I'll be the first to admit, I know I go hard in the paint on some issues, but honestly, y'all, it's out of love. I care deeply about this community, and like many of my neighbors, I want to see Kenmore City Council that honors the community it represents through action and deed as much as it does through poetry of campaign season. And tonight, we are walking the walk, and I'm proud of you, City Council. I ask for your support tonight. Let's get this done. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Culver. Andy Pearson?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Kenmore City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Andy Pearson. I live about a half mile from Kenmore Middle School in what is technically unincorporated Snohomish County. But my son attends Kenmore Middle School. My younger son will when he becomes of age. My family spends most of our, if not all, recreational hours and dollars in Kenmore. In fact, tonight I'm calling in from Kenmore Lanes, where I'm at a Little League board meeting. My house also resides within North Lake Little League, which is, as you know, where all Kenmore families play. For the past 6 years, I've been a big part of our North Lake Little League. I've coached 11 teams over the last 6 seasons. I'm on the board, which is why I'm here tonight. And I've also coached for the last 3 seasons a select team that bears the name Kenmore Cardinals. So for all intents and purposes, I consider myself a Kenmore resident. I want to thank both past and current members for your efforts in the Moorlands renovation, as well as the Bastille lease. Without those 3 fields, Little League doesn't exist in Kenmore. So thank you all very much for your efforts. But as my kids grow older and my family branches out, we're doing a lot of youth sports activities in other areas. We've been everywhere from Lake Stevens to Shoreline to Duval and Issaquah and everywhere in between. And everywhere we go, it's brand new, state-of-the-art, all weather fields. My Kenmore Cardinals this past season played over 90% of our games outside the city of Kenmore. Other teams would rather pay $150 to $200 for 3 hours of rental of an all-weather field than come risk the weather here in Kenmore on one of our dirt fields. Woodinville hosted North Lake Little League last year in the All-Star tournament. We played over at Northshore Athletic Fields. And after the games, we all walked over to Woodinville and enjoyed their shops and wineries and restaurants. I feel like without some fields that we can be proud of, some all-weather fields that can bring people in, we're missing out on a lot of opportunities, not only for revenue for fields, but revenue for local businesses. And Little League alone spends over $50,000 a year on fields, most of which goes to elementary schools for their dirt sandlots, which only our youngest 25 to 35% of people can play on. So I understand that there are budgetary limitations, there are land restrictions, there are environmental restrictions, but all we're asking is for the city council to finally put together a task force, and myself and dozens of other parents like myself would love to be on it. I heard last week one of my fellow citizens say, we can't be all things to all people. I totally agree with that. He said we need to rely on our neighbors for things like this, but we're trying to rely on our neighbors. and they're giving priority to their own residents. We can't get fields for the kids, fields that we need. So again, I'm begging City Council, please put together a task force. Please give us an opportunity to get the fields that we need for our kids and for our city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Mr. Morton?
Good evening, council members. I'm David Morton. I live near Redmond. I'm a PhD chemist. I'm concerned about a public health issue in the city of Kenmore. The Cadman asphalt plant in Kenmore has been creating a huge stench that at times makes the air nearly unbreathable for people downwind of the plant. This isn't just a nuisance odor like you might get from a soup factory or a composting facility. Tons of clear and colorless volatile organic chemicals, or VOCs, from the evaporation of petroleum solvents have been emitted by Cadman. Cadman is supposed to use a binder called asphalt cement to glue gravel and sand together to make asphalt paving mixes. The asphalt cement is supposed to be solvent-free, but when Cadman illegally uses cutback asphalt, which is asphalt cement diluted with kerosene, tons of kerosene fumes are evaporated into the air. PSCAA is supposed to ensure that Cadman uses only solvent-free asphalt cement to make their paving mixes. But it's clear that no one, neither PSCAA nor DOT, has been testing Cadman's tanks of asphalt binder. In the late 1990s, EPA worked with the asphalt industry to come up with methods, equipment, and raw materials that produce low levels of hazardous air pollution, as well as high-quality asphalt paving mixes. To produce low levels of hazardous air pollution, asphalt plants must use solvent-free asphalt cement. EPA calculated and compiled emission factors to predict the type and amount of hazardous air pollutants from asphalt plants using solvent-free binder. The compilation is called AP42, but these emission factors work only if asphalt plants use solvent-free asphalt cement as binder. Asphalt plants that use cutback asphalt emit hundreds or thousands of times the amount of hazardous air pollutants predicted by the AP42 emission factors. AP42 is based on the scientific principle that industrial plants that use the same equipment, raw materials, and process method will also produce the same type and quantity of air pollution. It's just plain bad science to say that the air pollution from Cadman's asphalt plant is safe to breathe without knowing the ingredients the plant uses, while knowing that the plant has used hundreds of thousands of gallons of cutback asphalt, and knowing that Kenmore residents have complained for years about the stench and health effects from breathing Cadman's air pollution. I want to wish the City Council a happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morton. You look like Santa today. Mr. John Peoples?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can, go ahead.
Great, John Peoples, Kenmore. Real quick this evening, I just want to reiterate my hope that the City Council takes it easy on the salaries, declines the salary increases for the duration of the pandemic. That is, while so many people are out of work and hurting, it would be a great show of solidarity. I'd also like to ask the City Council to do away with the plans for the photo enforcement of traffic. I still really feel that laws that are passed by human beings should be enforced by human beings, the police, and in-person meetings. Looking forward to actually going to City Hall and joining a meeting of the City Council and meeting my neighbors. I plead with the City Council to not impose a vaccine mandate. Doing so would be very exclusive and would not be inclusive at all. And so please don't do it. I'd also like to wholeheartedly support the efforts of those who are trying to get Little League baseball and softball facilities here in Kenmore. That would be fantastic. And that's it. And I'd like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. Good night.
Peter Lance. While we're waiting for Mr. Lance, the next group of people we'd like to hear from are Doug Levy, Danny Howe, Dakota Rash, Elizabeth Moody, and Vicky Grayland. Peter Lance, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me? Am I up?
No, you're not, Vicky. I was just announcing the order. Stand by. It's Mr. Lance's turn.
Okay.
Hello, thank you, council, for taking my comments tonight. I'll try to be brief. I'm speaking on behalf of the Citizens Initiative process. I feel it is important that the citizens be allowed to speak through the initiative process for a couple of reasons. One, they may bring forth initiatives or ideas or concepts that you will not willingly or happily entertain. And the other one is that it brings people into the process that might be excluded from the process. This only enhances the process of the governance of the city. I think it's important that you consider just how robust the process will become if you allow the citizens to become involved, or hopefully will become involved in picking up the pieces and the things that the council may be unwilling to address or shouldn't address. Some things may need to come forward for governance through another process than the process of your council and the rules and legislation you have to offer. Thank you very much. Good night.
Madam Clerk, will you call the next person, please?
Point of order,
What rules being broken, Councilmember File?
or point of information. We can't hear the clerk. She's muted.
Madam Clerk, you seem to be having trouble. Mr. Levy, I believe, is next, followed by Miss Grayland.
Okay.
Mr. Levy, please.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Doug Levy. I'm a resident of Kenmore 15619 62nd Place Northeast. Thank you for your time this evening. I'm here this evening to join others you've heard from and urge the city council, especially as you map out your next year, to think about ways to augment field needs and open spaces for the kids of our community. There are some things that we as adults thinking of the next generation haven't done terribly well on. Higher education and gun violence and the climate come to mind. I'm not sure we're leaving a good future for our kids, but with fields and open space and chances to play and be outside instead of with a video game control in their hands, we still have lots of chances to do that, and I'd urge your help in that. I wholeheartedly concur with the gentleman who commented earlier that if you can put together some kind of task force with a mix of people from the community to identify fields and spaces that would work for kids, I think you'll find that people will rally around and come to decisions and be able to recommend something for you. And I also want to encourage the council to look for ways to maximize what you have. I join the gentleman who thanked you for the work at Moorlands and at Bastyr. At Moorlands, you happen to have fields that are set back from many of the houses in the community, and you have the ability to use modern directional lighting. That would be a way to get much more time and use out of those fields. And I'd like to encourage you to give consideration to that. At Bastille, you forged a good relationship with the university, and there's an opportunity to have a long-term lease so that all of the leagues and all of the people who use that space have the knowledge that it will be there for some time to come. So again, I just want to urge you to take actions that will help the next generation of kids and give them chances to play inside their own community. I thank you very much again for your time, and happy holidays to all.
Thank you, Mr. Levy. Council, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. It sounds like my computer decided to go on holiday a little early. Danny Howe.
Hi,
Mr. Howe?
everyone. I'm here. Anastasia, can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Great. Just wanted to say good evening to all the council members and thank you for everything that you do. You earn every penny of your salaries, and just want to let you know that we know that. I'm a resident of Kenmore, and I've spoken to you before, living in the Arrowhead neighborhood. And I'm here tonight to urge you to take action to help address the severe shortage of ball fields for youth in Kenmore. I've talked about this issue a few times with you, and actually I've been more effective when the kids have come with me and they've talked to you. They speak volumes and more than I can say. But I've been a Little League parent and coach for 10 years. I've coached over 35 teams. And I've seen the transformative effects of youth sports and how important this is. Why is this important? I mean, my kids are 15 and 18. If we establish new fields, they probably will never see these fields. But my oldest child is 18 and he's applying for colleges. And aside from being very nervous, he's applying to USC and UCLA and UW and Stanford, and he's got a good shot. And part of the reason why he has a good shot was because he grew up in a community that had support, and a lot of that support came through youth sports. The other thing I want to say is that it's not always easy to grow up as a kid of color, and both my children obviously are part of an Asian American family. Deep in my heart, I know that youth sports make a difference for kids of color living in Kenmore. I've learned that as a coach. I've seen that with my kids of color, that the support it provides, the friendships it provides, the social emotional development that it provides helps to battle the isolation that you often see when you are a kid of a different ethnicity. And so it made a big difference, I think, in their lives. It certainly made a big difference in my children's lives. So we would love to support you if you wanted to pull together a task force to talk about permanent spaces for fields, and also to maybe address other changes, including lighting at Morelands and a long-term lease for fields at Bastille, which have been hugely helpful. We know that you support this issue. We know that you support children. I guess what we're asking is for us to be able to work together and come up with a solution. I am 100% sure that we can come up with that solution together. So with that, thank you for everything you do, and have a happy holidays.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. Dakota Rash?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Great, Dakota Rash. I recently moved to Lake Forest Park, but I still work in Kenmore for the moment. Thank you all for being here this evening. Like other citizens who have spoken, I'm here before you regarding the city of Kenmore giving its citizenry the power of initiative and referendum. It took me a little while, but I've reached a conclusion that I support you all giving the citizens this power. I initially encountered some doubts. Those were always resolved, though. I was aware of the antics of Tim Eyman. Those were defeated. And I was also made aware of a lot of good things that the initiative process has and is currently bringing about, like the current movement to break away from PSE and create a PUD in East King County. As I researched, I encountered a lot of documents that brought up other potential issues, but they also always noted that research into those topics yielded mixed results. So what I was left with and what I represent to you now is that the powers of initiative and referendum are just that, they're powers. Powers do necessitate some risk. Risk then necessitates trust. So part of why I'm standing before you is to ask and wonder whether or not you have trust in the people of Kenmore. I think the nature of this power also needs to be considered with regard to the status of the world today. I mean, legislation has and is currently being brought into existence that does limit people's power with regard to voting. That's an objective observation coming from someone who's read the language of what's being proposed. There are barriers being put on elections. So it may seem like it is in the best, that was a misread. So it does seem like it's in the best interest of giving people additional access to democracy right now. Many of you, like me, may feel like we are living in a challenging time. I don't, care where you stand on some of the issues that really concern me right now, but being in year 2 of a pandemic is hard. And I think we rise to the occasions of the hard times in front of us with a few key tools. And those tools are hope, justice, and trust. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rash. Elizabeth Mooney? Oh, there you are.
City Clerk, I just want to mention, I think Vicki Grayland may have been skipped.
Vicki Grayland is at the end of my list.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry, Vicki, we won't forget about you, I promise.
Okay. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Mooney. I'm a citizen of Kenmore, and I want to just wish you all a very happy and safe holiday season, New Year. And I want to also thank the council and the staff for all the work you've been doing. Really appreciate it and look forward to continuing working together. I'm here to mention that we're still concerned about the air pollution. We want the city to be healthy. So I'm looking forward to us working further on the air pollution. And I want to support the comments of my friends that include Stacy Valenzuela, David Morton, John Culver. I'll be supporting Vicki Grayland, definitely also Peter Lance, and just now listening to Dakota Rash's comments, I really appreciate that because we want hope and we want to build trust with the people. So I am here to support the citizens' initiatives for Kenmore voters. Please do vote unanimously tonight to give those powers to the people. I believe, having thought about this and talked to these citizens that have been supporting this new idea for Kenmore, that it is the right idea. It may feel risky, but it requires us all to be involved, discussing our city now with our community. We have new places to discuss, like at the hangar. And I think we are now ready, and we need to have the good people of Kenmore participate more rigorously to create that healthy, prosperous Kenmore. I want to also end by saying tonight, I support what some of my other friends that I haven't talked with much in the past, Doug Levy and Danny Howe. I agree with you that we should be having sports fields in Kenmore. And I do look forward also to working with folks like you on figuring out the best place for those fields. And so I would encourage us all to work with the people concerned about climate change, concerned about wetlands, and work with the environmental concerns. I like the idea of staying away from the wetlands, and just enjoy a joyful holiday season, stay safe, and have fun. I'll see you at the hangar if y'all want to talk about new citizens initiatives. Pass unanimously tonight. Yay, Kenmore. Good night.
Yay, Kenmore indeed. Miss Grayland, thank you for your patience. You're up next, followed by Sally Severson. Miss Vicki Grayland.
Thank you. Let me put on my video. Okay. Hi, I'm Vicki Grayland and I live in Kenmore. Good evening, City Council members, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. First, I want to support David Morton's comments. Perhaps some of you remember that a year ago, the council passed a measure to measure the greenhouse gases of the industrial area. I bring this up a lot because the current greenhouse gas measurement is based on PSC sales to the businesses there. However, the businesses truck in chemicals that they use in production and are not yet measured. Why are we delaying this? I also want to support the initiative process proposal. Basically, I believe in democracy, and I hope you all do too. We have a social contract to trust each other, and this is a great opportunity to show that we do. I also want to circle back to the City Council's compensation process. The documents used by the Commission were not shared with the public. I tried to file a citizen action request, but was not allowed by the website to complete the process. I sent an email to the Council, and only Councilmember Kugler responded. Do you really think that you should be voting on something that has not been properly documented in a sensitive measure concerning your compensation? As I stated last week, as a former union organizer, I believe that everyone should be compensated for their work. I'm not begrudging you the money. I'm asking for some accountability. Do you realize the Commission made this decision without knowing the city's total budget? They took 20 minutes to make a decision without sharing the data they based it on. They didn't even stop to ask the city clerk to take a minute to research the city's total budget. I urge you to release the documents used in this important decision. And I also agree with Elizabeth Mooney's comments on the ball fields. If there's to be a commission, you should have some environmentalists on there to make sure that we're not destroying anything that we will need for the future of these wonderful children who we all claim to be for. We need clean air that wetlands can provide in this time of climate change. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Grayland. Sally Severson.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Wonderful. My name is Sally Caverzan. I live on a small portion of unceded ancestral land of the coastal Salish people known today as Kenmore. I would like to speak on the undeniable opportunity before the council tonight. A vote to bolster the integrity of the democratic process in the city of Kenmore by voting in favor of granting the citizens of Kenmore the power of local initiative. Yes, we have these powers at the state level. Yes, we have these powers at the county level, but we are the only city in King County who does not legally empower its own people to locally bring forth public initiatives. Just 6 square miles of voters in King County, whose political engagement continues to be limited in such a way. The initiative process ought to be welcomed by our elected officials. The wisdom and decision-making of these voters are the same that awarded you your own positions. Thus, you should not be afraid of the ideas and passions of these same people, as they most likely align with your own values. There are plenty of matters that the council would likely support, but not wish to take up themselves in fear of ruffling the feathers of stakeholders or valued political donors. This is the gift of the Citizens Initiative. Imagine if the power of initiative had not already ushered in a $15 minimum wage. That would not be a comfortable conversation for council members and local business owners. Imagine if we had not already achieved the right to marriage equality in our state. There are donors for whom such an issue would sour political money pots. In Seattle, a voter-approved initiative now provides democracy vouchers to expand the donation pot to be more representative of the people. These are just a few examples of how citizen initiatives have positively shaped our communities without the burden of action being placed on council members. The people are prepared to gather the 3,000 signatures needed to supersede the vote tonight. It will be no secret to those voters which council members voted no. I urge you tonight to please get on the right side of history. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coverson. We have one additional hand raised, Mayor Baker. That is Nancy at Glenwood Gardens. Nancy, are you with us? Nancy?
Yes, I've just found out how to unmute on this process, on this new system.
Wonderful. We can hear you. You go ahead.
Okay, this will be really fast. I am definitely for the initiative process in Kenmore, and it's because I've met so many people who don't feel they have any input in what has been going on. They see things, but don't really feel they have had a right, have had any way to say anything. So I am definitely for it. One thing I'm concerned about is, though, we have so many residents who don't have citizenship yet. And I guess I have a question first. Would they be denied the right to vote on any initiatives that are local? It seems like they would, since it's a King County run. It would go through King County elections. And if that's true, that they wouldn't be able to vote, is there any way to get around it? So that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Mayor Baker, I see no additional hands raised. Mayor, you're muted.
Is there anybody else wishing to speak? Thank you very much.
Mayor,
yes.
My apologies, Mayor. I do see one additional hand raised. Oh, it was raised. Let me just check in with them really quickly. Janet, I see that you raised your hand temporarily. Did you want to speak?
I'm unmuted now.
Yes, Janet, did you wish to speak?
Yes, my name is Janet Hayes, and I live in the community of Kenmore. I'm a citizen here. And I wanted to thank everyone. In fact, I started making a list of all the people that spoke, and it was inspiring. And Kenmore needs that kind of inspiration all of the time from the citizens. We do need city town hall meetings. I'm going to fight for those and fight for the participants that would like to be their name to be on a list that they've come and heard the meeting. So many people don't realize, and we only have 8% of our population that votes, or 18%, can't quite 18%. And that is so minor compared to all the decisions that have to be made in Kenmore. It'll bring more people out to vote. I listened to the baseball people tonight, and I too feel for them and think that there's got to be something we can do. There are many places to figure out and ways to figure out how to get that and accepted, something that becomes a reality for the kids, our youth. Everything could have an initiative, even sports. Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. And is this Janet Hayes of Kenmore?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor Baker, I believe that's the last of our testimonies for this evening.
Anybody else wishing to be heard? Hearing no one else come forward. Thank you all for speaking tonight. We do appreciate hearing from you. And next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
I haven't heard a motion yet. Councilmember File?
I actually would like to pull an item for discussion on the consent agenda.
Okay, which item do you want to pull?
I would like to pull the salary commission report.
All right, fine. We can pull item D. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item D?
So moved.
Second.
And I'll second, or Councilmember O'Kane will second. If there's no further discussion, we will vote on the consent agenda minus D. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The consent agenda minus D is passed unanimously. Item D, Mr. City Manager. There seems to be a question with item D, the salary commission. I think Councilmember File disapproves of it. If you want to pull it and we can vote it down, and that's fine with me if we vote it down.
Would you
Yeah.
like me to speak to
Mr.
it now?
Ms. Rattan?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I had a comment, but I would defer to Councilmember Files' comment first, and then I can add on to it. Thank you.
Sure. We're in the normal habit here of voting yes or no. So, and usually staff is the one who when an item is pulled, is explained it. So if you want to change that process, then by all means do. What do you want to say about item D?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What I'd like to say about item D is I really appreciate the work of Salary Commission. I do have a question. We did receive an email from Mr. Doug Levy after the fact, and he drew a concern in there. He did notice that we are paid less than surrounding cities in this capacity. That while that is fact, we don't have evidence of that. There is no transparency to the process that the Salary Commission went through, that the public could either view via documents, which I think we would support. And our surrounding cities do have the opportunity of healthcare. And while there are real healthcare inequities in government, I believe that this is something that should be considered by the Salary Commission. So I would support returning it and having them address these issues.
Deputy Mayor.
I guess just a question for the city attorney, maybe the city manager. My understanding is with the Salary Commission process, we turn things over, they give us something, and we don't even get to vote it up or down. We just accept the report and move forward. So I don't think there's, correct me if I'm wrong, city attorney, I don't believe there's any way for us to either A, turn this down, or B, modify it. Am I correct?
That is correct. If I may, Mr. Mayor, now, the state law identifies that upon the creation of the Salary Commission and then tasking it with the review and setting of salaries, the council divested itself of the authority / jurisdiction to make those arrangements or discussions. And state law actually is very clear upon its filing, it being the Salary Commission, upon it filing its statement of salaries, that is the effective salaries for the council. The council does not have the ability to revise or amend it, not under state law or city code.
Now that is salaries, that's not benefits. Is that correct?
That is correct. They own the Salary Commission specifically filed a statement of salaries with regard to salaries only.
Now, my understanding, Councilmember File, is you want health benefits, and you also want to see health benefits given to the Planning Commission. I think we've had that conversation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for raising the topic back. I do remember you raising the topic of Planning Commission. We were talking about, and I was talking about with you, our council and surrounding cities. And the action surrounding cities use is to opt in or opt out via contract agreement. And you can choose to opt back in later, but you just can't go back from a point of time. So that being said, that's what was addressed for our community to hear and for the rest of our council to consider.
So that's great. If you want to bring up health insurance for the council, then please do that as we discussed at the council comments portion of the meeting. So back on item D. Yes, Councilmember Shrubnik.
Just to Councilmember Files' earlier comment, is there a way, this is a question to Don, I guess, is there a way to make the documents that the task force used more public? Is that possible?
Yes, I think it is. And I believe, and I don't know if Mr. Oppenheim's on the call. I think I see his name. I believe there has been efforts to date to get those records, in fact, on the record. I don't know where they are in attempting to do so, but I do believe that that's what they're trying to do.
If it's helpful, I can speak to that.
Yes, go ahead, but we have also Councilmember Marshall.
Yes, just to reiterate what the city attorney is saying, we did receive the public records request. We received it a little late, and part of that is because it was sort of like Ms. Grayland mentioned, she wasn't able to submit the full request through the online portal, and so we were troubleshooting that. But we do have that. In fact, we are currently ready to release the documents, and I think we're ready to do that tomorrow. We have gathered them. We're ready to release them with tomorrow as the date, and we moved on that as quickly as possible as soon as we received the request.
Mr. Oppenheim.
I just wanted to say that, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for recognizing me. I just wanted to say that I have those documents as Excel files, and I'm just going to change those into PDFs, and they'll be ready, like Anastasia said, tomorrow.
Great. Councilmember Marshall.
My question's answered. Thank you.
Great. So item D from the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Can I clarify? I think it would be a motion to receive and file. Wouldn't be that to be the best?
Yeah, but it was part of the consent agenda that we approved.
Right, but on the consent agenda, it said receive and file.
Yeah.
You had it all by itself. I just want you to be clear that it would be a motion to
receive and file. Yes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Councilmember O'Kane seconds. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is the asphalt plant notice of construction permit update presented by Development Services Director, Mr. Brian Hampson. This is for information only.
And Mr. Hampson is on his way.
Mr. Hampson, we're waiting on you.
Good evening, Council Mayor. Thanks for the opportunity to present you with an update. If you recall, about a year ago, believe it or not, maybe a little bit more than a year ago, we approached Council about hiring some professionals to help us out with a couple things that are going on at the asphalt plant, including the notice of construction permit. If you remember, the notice of construction permit is the operating permit that's issued through Puget Sound Clean Air Agency. So that was in 2019 is when we found out that the work at the concrete plant had been done to require a new notice of construction. And so we hired professionals who are here tonight. We have Dennis McLaren from Cascadia Law Group and Karen Greenacre from TRC. Karen is the expert when it comes to the specifics, when it comes to the exact stuff. So she's here as well. So, you know, with that, I mean, tonight is really just to get you another update on where we are with the status of the notice of construction permit. And it hasn't been issued yet. And Dennis is going to go over, you know, the status of it and what's the next steps. I guess I'll go ahead and just turn it over to Dennis now.
Well, thank you, Brian, and thank you, Mayor Baker and members of the council. This is an opportunity, as Brian said, to update you on the process and update the citizens that are participating in tonight's meeting as well. We've been monitoring closely the process that the Puget Sound Clean Air Agency has been going through with respect to a new permit for the Cadman facility. As folks know, there was some equipment installed without benefit of permit, and the Clean Air Agency issued a notice of violation, and now they've been going through a permitting process. And just to make it clear for folks about what the process ahead is, we're expecting that a draft permit would be issued by the Clean Air Agency soon. We've seen that there has been air modeling completed, that there's been a lot of back and forth between the Clean Air Agency and the Cadman folks and their consultants. And we expect that a draft permit would be issued as early as January and hopefully in the first quarter for sure. And we also wanted to let folks know what the process is around that. Once a draft permit is issued, then a public comment period opens up, and the city will be commenting on the draft permit. Citizens will have the opportunity to comment and review the draft permit as well. We've made it clear to the Clean Air Agency that we would like to see a public hearing, and their rules do provide for a public hearing, which citizens can participate in, as well as representatives of the city. Once a public hearing is done and the comment period is closed, the Clean Air Agency would then take that under consideration and would issue a final permit. And once a final permit is issued, then there is also an opportunity to appeal that permit if people do not find it meets their interests or is not consistent with what the regulations require. And that appeal would be before the Pollution Control Hearings Board. The Pollution Control Hearings Board is a 3-member body that is appointed by the governor, and they're a quasi-judicial body that hears appeals. The permit applicant can appeal conditions. Citizens can appeal. The city can appeal as well. So that's ahead of us as yet. Some of the things that we'll be looking for in a permit are related to not only our review, but what you've been hearing from citizens as well. We'll be looking for the air modeling results to see what they show in terms of health risks. We'll be looking at limitations in the permit on the processes and on the materials that can be used at the facility. We'll be looking for things like testing requirements, stack testing requirements, and so on, and odor control measures, because health risks are different than odor control. Odor can exist even when there are not health risks associated with the levels of air pollutants coming from a facility. So we'll be looking for all of those things in a draft permit and looking for what sort of inspections and procedures will be required of the facility, and again, what types of processes and materials are allowed to be used at the facility. So certainly, Karen, you can add to that if you have anything you want to add, and we can certainly answer questions as well.
Waiting for the agency to issue the draft permit.
Sorry, we can't hear you, Karen.
I think she may be trying to join us by phone. Nope.
Maybe while she's coming on, Mayor, we could take any questions.
Sure. Questions? I'm not seeing any questions.
I guess I'd like to add for the citizens' perspective, when we find out about a public hearing or anything of that nature, we'll make sure to broadcast that out through our means of channels. So people in the public will, if they don't receive it directly from the agency, could get it from the city as well too. We could put some information on our website and contact people.
And perhaps what I might add to that is we know from the public comments that the city council has been receiving from citizens, and from the public comments that the Clean Air Agency has been receiving, that there will be lots of interested citizens that have comments to make on that draft permit. And again, we'll take those into consideration as we make the city's comments as well.
Wonderful.
Any luck, Karen, getting your audio to work?
I am. I just called in via phone. Can you hear me?
Okay.
You can bet we can.
All right. So I think Dennis covered the process, and right now we're really waiting for the agency to issue the draft permit.
All right.
Well,
Is
thank
that
you.
it? Is that
That's
it, Brian?
That's
Okay.
it. Thanks a lot.
No questions for no comment. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Happy
the
holidays.
information tonight. The happy holidays to you. All right, next item on the agenda is ballot initiatives presented by the city attorney, Don Riton, and policy intern Garrett Oppenheim. Please.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'm going to begin just by admitting up front that it's Mr. Oppenheim who has done a comprehensive, outstanding job in presenting this issue for the council. I am simply here to introduce him in presenting. I believe there was a PowerPoint uploaded to the council agenda today, but for the info or for the presentation.
Before you start.
Of course.
And I concur. Mr. Oppenheim has done a tremendous job during his tenure here. We are very, very pleased to have him, and we do know the quality of work he does. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. So without much further ado, Mr. Oppenheim will present the initiatives and referendum PowerPoint. I'm happy to answer any questions if the council has it afterwards, but I have a sneaking suspicion that Mr. Oppenheim would be able to answer those too.
Thank you, Dawn. I appreciate that introduction. Good evening, Your Honor, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of the City Council, and the public who's joining us tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to present on local ballot measures. So let me share my screen and have the PowerPoint going. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. There we go. So local ballot measures come in two flavors, the initiative and the referendum. The initiative power allows the voters in a city to directly enact new laws or change existing ones. On the other hand, the referendum power allows voters to approve or reject measures that have been enacted by the City Council before they become law. There are two ways for a code city such as Kenmore to incorporate these powers: the petition method and the resolution method. We'll start with the petition method, the procedure for which is found at RCW 35A02020. So the first step is that registered voters in the city, they file a petition with the city clerk requesting the adoption of initiative and referendum powers. The petition must be signed by a number of registered voters equal to, quote, not less than 50% of the votes cast at the last general election. And then the second step is that the city clerk transmits that petition to the county auditor to verify that all of the signatures are legitimate and that the petition is sufficient. And that leads to step three, which is that once the county auditor has found that the petition meets the requirements, she files a certificate of sufficiency with the city council. And then the city council must adopt a resolution declaring the city's intention to adopt initiative and referendum powers. Within 10 days, the resolution must be published in a newspaper of general circulation. And then if 90 days pass after that, and no referendum petition has been filed, the city council must enact an ordinance formally adopting initiative and referendum powers, at which point the city has referendum and initiative powers. But if a referendum is signed by 10% of the electorate from the last general election in that 90-day window, an election has to be held to determine whether the city will adopt the powers or not. Then moving on to the resolution method, it is governed, as you see, by 35A02030 in the RCWs. This one, the first step is that a majority of the city council enacts a resolution declaring the intention to adopt initiative and referendum powers. And then step 2 is to once again publish in a newspaper of general circulation within the city within 10 days. And then step 3, if 90 days go by without a petition of referendum being filed, the city council must at its next regular meeting enact an ordinance adopting initiative and referendum powers. Once again, there's another alternate step 3, just like in the petition method. If a referendum is filed with the signatures of 10% of the populace within that 90-day window, an election is held to determine whether to adopt initiative and referendum powers or not. So now that we know how to acquire the powers, we must examine how they can be used and specifically the limitations that have been placed on them by the legislature and the courts. There are statutory and judicial limitations. We'll start with the statutory. RCW 35A 11090 limits the powers such that they can only be used on ordinances and no other legislative enactments. It also exempts 7 specific types of ordinances, and I'll just go through those quickly. First are ordinances initiated by petition, ordinances necessary for immediate preservation of public peace, health, or safety passed by a unanimous city council vote, ordinances providing for local improvement districts, ordinances appropriating money, ordinances approving collective bargaining, ordinances providing for city employee compensation, and ordinances authorizing the repeal or levy of taxes. So as I said, there are also judicial limits that have been placed by the courts. The Washington courts have added further restrictions, holding that they may only be used on legislative actions and not administrative, and that they may only be utilized when the state legislature did not grant the power over the relevant issue exclusively to city councils. So first, let's examine the legislative versus administrative distinction. An action is considered legislative if it has a permanent and general character, but administrative if it's of a temporary or special nature. The grant of authority is a little bit more complicated. The courts have found a distinction between a grant of authority to the state legislature as a corporate entity and to its legislative and other corporate authorities. If the grant of power to the city as a corporate entity, direct legislation is permitted. But if the grant of power is to the legislative authority of the city, the use of initiative and referendum powers is prohibited. One looks to the underlying statutory grant of authority to determine whether the authority has been granted to the city as a corporate entity or as a legislative body. If the state legislature has given the power directly to the municipal legislative body with regard to a relevant subject, it has preempted the use of initiative and referendum powers. To further illustrate the distinction, the Washington Supreme Court held in the 2012 case of the Mukilteo Citizens for Simple Government versus the City of Mukilteo that the state legislature had granted the exclusive power to legislate on the subject of using and operating automated traffic cameras, to the local legislative bodies, such that an initiative to restrict the authority of a city council to enact red light cameras by requiring a 2/3 vote of the people to approve that action was an invalid use of the initiative process. So now that we know how to acquire the initiative and referendum powers and for what they can be used, all that's left is for us to learn the process for using them. We'll begin with the procedure for using initiatives. The first step is to file with the city clerk a petition containing a number of signatures, no less than 15% of the number of registered voters in the city on the day of the most recent general election. The second step is for the clerk to transmit the petition to the county auditor. This is very similar to the process for gaining these powers to evaluate its sufficiency. Once the auditor verifies the petition, she attaches a certificate confirming this and returns it to the clerk. Mr. Deputy Mayor, I see you have a question. Did you want me to ask that now?
No, it can wait. I was just getting in the queue. I apologize.
Okay, great. So the third step is if the petition is confirmed sufficient, City Council has 2 options. First, it can pass the proposed ordinance without alteration within 20 days, or second, it can submit the proposed ordinance to the people for a vote. If they choose option 1, the process ends and the initiative becomes law. If they choose option 2, we continue through to step 4. The measure can go on the ballot at the next general election if there's one scheduled to occur between 45 and 90 days from when the council receives the petition, or otherwise a special election must be held on one of the dates identified in state law. Step 5 is that any ordinance submitted to the voters must be published by the city clerk in a newspaper between 5 and 20 days prior to the election. And step 6 requires the city attorney to prepare a ballot title. And in step 7, you hold the election. If the majority of the people vote in favor of it, then the initiative becomes law. And if they oppose it, obviously it does not. Moving on to the referendum process, which is similar to initiatives, but differs in a couple of key ways, including how it starts. The first step is for city council to pass an ordinance subject to the referendum power. That ordinance does not go into effect until 30 days have passed from its passage. The second step is for the petition to be filed with the city clerk during the 30-day period before the ordinance takes effect. And then the petition must meet the same requirements as that for an initiative. And the city clerk then transmits it to the county auditor. Once again, step 3 sees city council with 2 options. First is to reconsider the ordinance and repeal it in its entirety within 20 days. And the second is to submit the ordinance to a vote of the people. Steps 4 through 7 are actually the same as the initiative process, so I won't go through them in detail here. If the people vote to reject the ordinance, it doesn't become law. And then finally, we come to the cost. So the cost of placing an initiative or referendum on the ballot differs depending on what type of election it is and when it occurs. Local races appear on the general November ballot in odd numbered years. And as such, because Kenmore has other races on the ballot, it would cost nothing extra to also have a local measure on the ballot in one of these elections. Kenmore generally does not participate in even numbered general elections, so the cost of doing so would be estimated to be between $35,500 and $43,500. The estimated cost of placing an initiative or referendum on the ballot for a spring election does not rely on whether the year is odd numbered or even, and it's approximately $35,000 to $39,000. So if you have any questions, I will be happy to do my best to answer those now. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. First off, great work as always. So this just seems like it was probably an oversight by Kenmore's founders back in the 90s. I'm more than happy to give this power to our residents. That said, I do have questions about process and timeline. So correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I think I heard the timeline would look like. We don't have a resolution in front of us tonight, so we would need to request a resolution be brought to council at a future meeting, which would then, that resolution, if passed, would declare our intent to enact these powers. And then once the resolution is passed, it would come back 90 days after that. We would then pass an ordinance enacting these powers. Is that correct? Did I hear that correctly as far as timeline and process?
That sounds like a fair timeline, yes. The 90-day window.
Right. So we would need to have a resolution though at a future meeting. Because there seemed to be some there seemed to be, folks in the public who I think believe that maybe we were voting on this tonight. And I just wanted to clarify, we do need to actually have a resolution come before us at a future meeting. Is that your understanding?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Councilmember Marshall.
If the initiative power is established and we have that process up and running and there's an initiative and it gets challenged in the courts, who defends it? Who gets sued? Who defends it? And who pays for the defense?
For that one, I am going to have to defer to the city attorney.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just see this share screen. That's an excellent question. It really depends. I say that because it would be the council who you always make the decisions on whether to move forward for litigation or not. And so if there was a challenge, it would be up to the council to determine if, how they want to interact in that litigation. Usually challenges, you would be what's called a necessary party, meaning you'd be named regardless because it's your law, but that doesn't, you still dictate the efforts in a litigation. So I will have to stand put on it depends on what it is, but you will have flexibility if something like that should arise.
Okay, it's not like I think the state attorney general has to defend initiatives, right? It's not like
That's correct. Actually, the Mukilteo case that came about was actually appealed by a citizens group, not the city originally. And so the city was on board for the ride, but it was initiated by a citizens group who didn't want the removal of the cameras or the red light cameras.
Any other questions? Councilmember Shrubnik?
Yeah, it's not exactly a question. I actually had a similar question to Councilmember Marshall, but with a slight additional piece of, these are, I'm totally for it. I think it probably was an oversight earlier, but these are typically not without cost, even if it doesn't cost anything to put it on the ballot. Even if there isn't a court challenge, we are typically talking about some amount of staff time to either redo policies, create policies, relook at our, well, typically not budget necessarily, but I mean, there is cost. There's cost associated with the city attorney writing the ballot measure, so there is some nominal costs. And some of them, may require more. I am curious whether other municipalities, put a small line item budget on, within their budget to work on this. I'm also curious the frequency which other cities have initiatives. I think it's great. I'm just want to kind of have our eyes wide open.
If I may, Mr. Mayor,
Please,
operationally, I'm not aware of other cities, but I am familiar with at least one which had a line item for elections. But that was, they knew of elections coming in the future, so they just, put a line item in their own budget for that. So I'm aware of at least one city that does that.
We do the same thing. We have to pay for our share of council elections, so we have that line item in our budget.
So Mr. Oppenheim, initiative process comes before us in December. There's no election scheduled within the time period. That means we'd have to hold a special election in February or whenever.
That's correct, yes.
What would the cost be to that?
So that would be the 30, I think it's 35 to 39,000 to hold the special election.
Okay.
And those are estimates that I received from King County Finance.
Right. Because basically we have no idea when initiative is going to come from the public. So, fine. Any other questions? Well, if that's it, thank you all very much, Mr. City Manager.
I think Councilmember File is about to do what I'm wondering about.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to bring this item back to us by resolution for a future possible vote.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Do I see general agreement with that? Mr. City Manager.
Looking for January?
Sure.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a staff report.
Your Honor, just one item, and I'd like Debbie Bent to take the lead on that.
Thank you.
Bent.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. The question before you tonight is whether Council wishes staff to bring back an ordinance at the January 10th meeting to further extend the residential tenant eviction moratorium, which would expire on January 15th. The moratorium has been in effect since March of 2020. The residential tenant protections related to the COVID-19 pandemic that you adopted in June would remain in effect as long as the state declaration of an emergency and the city's emergency declaration remains in effect. That's all I have to say.
All right. Any comments, questions? I'm
Councilmember
not
Files'
seeing
hand is
anybody. It
up.
looks like Councilmember File wants to say something.
I really appreciate this item coming back to us, and I see it's very timely. Given the direction that happened at a national level with the CDC and looking at what's happened here in our state with the direction with Governor Inslee, I believe it's really time to move beyond emergency measures to addressing the crisis that we have today, and that will continue through, real policy with policy solutions. And I think that's something we're going to have to do really soon here. But I am concerned. I don't know that this is the time to renew another emergency moratorium.
All right. So I'm not hearing anybody speaking in favor of it coming back to us. All right, Mrs. Bent, you have what you need?
Yes. So in that case, without further extension, the moratorium then would expire on January 15th.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager.
I just want to wish everybody a happy holidays and thanks for a great year. 2021 was hard, but it was productive. And you and my coworkers and the community, we all worked pretty well together to propel Kenmore upward on our trajectory of becoming and creating a thriving community where all people love where they live. That's what we're going for. And I think 2021 put a dent in that. We made progress towards that end. So really looking forward to 2022. Thanks for putting your trust in us. And I'm really excited for what you've laid out for us for the next year. And we're going to continue to accomplish great things together. So thank you and happy holidays.
Great. Comments, reports. Let's go ahead and start with Councilmember O'Kane.
Well, I attended K4C on Friday, and I'll just share, you may have already seen this in the news, but, and as mentioned by one of our community members, or at least one this afternoon, Governor Inslee has passed some great legislation for climate. And the place that I'm very excited about as a member of K4C, City of Kenmore, and RIA 8 is the $187 million of funding towards salmon recovery. So that's just huge. Hopefully we'll be able to bring a substantial chunk of it here towards Kenmore to help our waterways and bring back salmon. I want to thank our city manager for reminding me this is our last meeting of the year. And I want to say it's really an honor working with each and every one of you. I'm so proud of the work we've done this year. It's like, wow, I just got to chill. I mean, like, really, we've done amazing work this year and huge progress working together as a team. So thank you. And I want to thank our city staff, city manager, and entire staff. Big, and each of you can do your own, but this team is amazing. And we have great new, assistant city manager, HR, and financial director. I mean, these are major moves that are going to strengthen our staff and keep moving us forward. So on a real high note, thank you all and happy holidays, because we've got a great year ahead. Really good things coming. Thank you.
Councilmember Marshall.
I want to thank our citizens, and especially our active citizens who speak at our meetings, though I may fervently disagree with you, I think your example has to be followed by everybody, especially if the city is looking at, and the people are talking about our initiative process. We've got to be involved. We've got to be active. Things can happen, as we see perhaps, where the process can be manipulated in ways that we don't want to see. The only way to counteract that is to get involved. So I just encourage everyone to do that in the coming year. And then I also want to thank my fellow council members this evening for being models of concision and brevity. And I hope that we can take that into the new year with the plea for 2022, 3 words: please be concise. Thank you.
Councilmember Kugler.
I want to just reiterate what Council Members O'Kane and Marshall said, and to thank all of our residents for coming and sharing their voices and passion and advocacy. We really couldn't do the work that we do every day without that relationship and conversation. So thank you so much for showing up. I'd also like to thank staff. This was my first year on council, and wrapping up one whole year. It's been really eye-opening for me. And I just appreciate all the work and dedication and support that staff and council members have shown me along this way. So thank you so much for a very positive year. I also wanted to give an update that we had the Eastside Transportation Partnership meeting recently. They did ask for support to help mitigate funding gaps for improvements along 405 and SR 167. We supported that since it aligns with one of our legislative priorities. So just wanted to give you all a heads up that we signed on for that. And I also had the opportunity to go and tour some of the missing middle housing in downtown Bothell, which was such a great tour and such a great opportunity. If you didn't get to join that, I know you can probably still find the map online, or I have a copy of it, happy to share, but it was really great to see examples of a lot of different varieties of housing types that mix into single family homes. So if you get a chance, highly recommend doing that. And I hope everyone has a great holiday season. Thank you.
Councilmember Srebnick.
Yeah, I want to give a big shout out to Mr. Oppenheim for a great example of exactly what Councilmember Marshall said, which was a concise, to the point, all the necessary information. It's a great presentation. And just want to give thanks to our great staff and incredible new staff that our city manager was able to attract. Fantastic, great work among the council and teamwork. And in particular, want to shout out to our citizens that hang in there with us and keep giving us input. And it is so valuable. And I hope that they continue to do that, whether or not. I mean, I think we'll probably end up doing the initiative piece, but that shouldn't be a substitute for just keep telling us what you need to tell us and making sure we do it. Thanks.
Councilmember File.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank everyone for another amazing meeting. It's been another wonderful year. We have been so successful in accomplishing so much throughout this COVID pandemic together with our community and with our city and our staff. I really appreciate all of you. I just want to say on initiatives and referendums, we love hearing from our community. One of the best ways to get a hold of us is to email or call or attend a coffee with a council meeting. But there are other options for meeting with your government, whether it's a town hall or a summit. Those other options do exist. And I just want you to know that they're there. And when it comes to ball fields, we heard a lot about ball fields tonight, and I absolutely support ball fields, definitely co-use of school fields. But there might be an opportunity in the new year to look at maybe a work session or study session. I would welcome that opportunity to sit down with our partners and stakeholders and see what we can come together on and work future forward for the best of Kenmore. Other than that, I do know that there are still some openings on the Sound Cities Association's boards and committees. So there was one, Councilmember Shrednick, you had mentioned that's still open and available, and a reapplication period for that needs to be received by January if you want to reapply or consider some of the other open opportunities. So I definitely encourage you to do so if you have the time and opportunity. And other than that, I want to wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year.
All right, Deputy Mayor.
To honor Councilmember Marshall's ask earlier, I won't repeat what everybody's already said, but I will say, it's been a heck of a year. We've got brighter days ahead. I look forward to working with all of you, council and staff included, going into 2022. Happy holidays. Have a happy new year.
I hope that we can bring back the town hall meeting. We used to do them years ago. We stopped doing them. I really would love to see that come back again. I really don't have anything else to add, except don't forget, there's no meeting on 12/27. We have that one off. In the meantime, we need to go back into executive session. Pursuant to RCW 42.31101 subsection I, the council will now enter a closed executive session to discuss pending litigation. The session is expected to last 30 minutes and no final action is expected. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may clarify,
Yes.
it's potential litigation.
I thought I said potential.
You said pending. but
Pending?
Yeah, thank you.
I just considered the source. Thank you.
Thank you.
And once again, I see many of our friends are still with us. The council did recess into an executive session. I don't believe any final action is expected. In fact, I do believe that they may adjourn the meeting after the executive session, but you're welcome to stay with us until that happens. The executive session is expected to last approximately 30 minutes, and they will be discussing pending or potential litigation. Councilmember O'Kane, I see that you're still with us. You
Yeah,
might
like
want to
phone meeting. Yeah.
go ahead and follow the executive session link you used at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah, I meant to. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, we are back. And if there's no further action to come before us, we stand adjourned. Good night, everybody.
Good night and
Happy
happy
holidays. Merry
holidays.
Christmas.
Thank you. You too. Bye.